Why do we only have 2 black women that are running Fortune 500 companies? Are you telling me?
We gotta work harder.
No. I'm saying that if I'm a minority candidate, that means I am actually unqualified, right?
No, I don't think you
We're saying that black, brown people, women are not working hard enough, and that's why they're not in.
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this panel. One of the members on this panel said some of the most crazy racist crap I've ever heard. Let's get into it and we'll talk about it.
To be mindful that the narrative that we're seeing coming out of the Trump administration effectively says that every black and brown person is a DEI hire, which means unqualified, right? And that is a very dangerous message to send. We saw this with Ketanji Brown Jackson, the U.S. Supreme Court Justice. We saw this with Vice President Harris, where we are seeing this in so many different sectors where women of color, people of color generally, are being classified as unqualified, even though they are immensely qualified. And I think we will see a corrosive impact, not only in government, but in the private sector as well.
One of the other extraordinary things that
I think it goes even further than that. But before I go into that, whenever they mention black women in DI or in any context, I'm going to say this. The most educated group in the country are black women. So cut this crap about it being about meritocracy and getting the best person. It's obviously not about that. It's your view. It's your racist view that every black person is incompetent. And if somehow they're a surgeon or somehow they're a Supreme Court pick, it's a DI hire. They didn't get there because they're intelligent. They got there because of sympathy or something like that. This is why you're called racist. The view itself is racist to think that someone who's black could not possibly be competent enough to do a particular job. And that's why Trump said once we get deportation in order and get everyone, all the illegal immigrants out of the country, those are black jobs. Why did he say that? Why not white jobs? Too incompetent for white people to do?
happened today. There was this memo from the Office of Personnel Management basically telling workers to snitch on each other. We are aware of some efforts in the government to disguise these programs by using coded or imprecise language. They're saying report it, and failure to report this information within 10 days may result in adverse consequences. Yikes. It's a pretty heavy hand.
It is a heavy hand, and I think we have to remember there is the Constitution, there are federal statutes. The president certainly has the right to issue executive orders. He has the right to issue agency memos, but the executive orders and agency memos do not supersede the Constitution, and they do not supersede federal law.
And when we talk about diversity, I think people often think it's just about race, but it's about a lot of things. People with disabilities, women, LGBTQ individuals, people in rural areas, people who are pregnant, all kinds of different aspects of this. But everything is getting kind of wiped away with a clean slate at this point. And the consequences are that things that you didn't even know those individuals are working on will suddenly stop.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, and conservatives out there. DEI is also supposed to help white people that live in the country, because historically it's been viewed, especially in like finance firms or lawyers, that if you're from the country, you're not as smart as some of the people in the city, right? White people in the city are more intelligent than white people in the country. It's meant to help you out too. It's meant to be like, okay, stop looking at just into Manhattan. Look at the whole New York City or New York State, whatever. It's meant to just open up the pool to everyone. That's all. That's all DEI is. It's not about hiring incompetent anyone. Companies are not that stupid. They're more greedy than anything.
I used to work in the White House, and part of this is there is an assumption, to Alfonso's point, that the people that are there have not done it by merit. They have not done it because they have worked hard and they are the best to be in that seat. But a lot of the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts is about recruitment. It's about taking the extra effort to go to a place that you might not go. You might just want to post it on social media, but maybe go to a farmer's market and recruit people, or go to a HBCU and recruit people so people know about the opportunities. folks go through, if you've ever tried to get hired in the federal government, it's like one of the hardest places actually to penetrate. It's not a hand-me-out type of job you get. But the folks who were doing it, they're also, these were not political appointees that he did this to. These were public servants who decided to work for their country. And to Alfonso's point, they might not just be displaced, they might be unemployed, which is adding to the unemployment issue within our country and people being able to afford things, which I thought Donald Trump ran up.
It's interesting to see the federal government dealing with this. Obviously, the way Donald Trump is, no CEO would handle this the way he's doing it right now. But it's what they've elected. The majority of Americans have. It's interesting to see the private sector dealing with this, and I think you see a lot of large corporations, publicly traded corporations, trying to work through and better define what DEI looks like inside their organization. And I think the places that are going to be most successful are the ones that weave this into the very fiber of their organization, not just because it's mandated, not because there's a one-size-fits-all definition for DEI. And I think as we work through the federal government, ripping this scab off this quickly it feels like it's more about making a point than making a difference.
They're also asking the federal government to basically pressure private entities to end DEI within their private corporations. But to your point, Jeff, there are a bunch of companies who've actually defended their use of DEI in their hiring and in their management of their companies, Costco, Apple, Pinterest, Microsoft. They basically said, get out of our business. This is working for us. Why is the federal government trying to push companies to run themselves in ways that Donald Trump wants them to?
I think President Trump...
Because his racist red meat for his base. That's why. Because he promised his racist base and conservatives that are racist adjacent that he's going to harm black and brown people in this country. This is why immigration is a big deal to him. DEI. And guys, the reason I push back so much on this is not because it's obvious you should push back on racism anywhere and meet it where it is in each and every time. Push back on it. But it's going to put people, it's going to decrease the standard, the living standards for so many people, especially black people. Black people are going to be are going to be passed up on even more promotions that they would have deserved, being passed on jobs that they could have gotten, but it will be pushed by. This kind of ideology also permeates, meaning people become, regular people become managers and supervisors, and then they have this DEI thought in their mind, and that black people are incompetent, brown people are incompetent. So then when they go to hire, they look to hire who? White people, right? This is why it's so dangerous to have this stuff out in the atmosphere and no pushback. It has to be pushed back each and every time.
Trump has actually stated he's focused and drilled in the merit. It's all about merit. He's made it very clear. If you work hard and you're going to do a great job, I'm not going to look at the color of your skin, or you're going to get the job. And it's like I've watched him talk, and I've watched him in the campaign talk about how he feels that we're going to hire the best of the best, and it's going to be driven by merit and merit only. I happen to be Hispanic, and I became the Lieutenant Governor of California, and I want to believe that happened because of my hard work, my dedication, being disciplined, and
your good looks.
I don't know about the good looks, but I can tell you this: it's how I feel. So I think the opportunities for everybody. Now, when Alfonso talks about some people are going to get hurt, I don't see it that way. I just respectfully disagree with you. I think that if they are hard workers and they're disciplined and they're very, very brilliantly smart, they're going to get the job. They're going to stay in that job. Aside from
to add on that, there's a big...
But that's the thing. How's this moron not seeing it? He's labeling black people and brown people as DEI hires. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how capable they are, how competent they are. He just wants to get rid of all of them. And how does he determine them? Why did he call Kamala Harris a DEI pick or Ketanji Brown Jackson a DEI pick? Clearly, he wasn't looking at their resume. He was going based off skin color. Like, what is this guy effing talking about as a Hispanic? I'm sorry, Mr. Hispanic. I'm a Hispanic too. Me and you are not looked at the same. There are Hispanics, like I said, that looks like Ashley and Abby Phillips. We wouldn't be treated the same as you. White people will take you in and welcome you in much more than we would ever. But by the way, you still won't ever be fully accepted because you're Hispanic.
gap between discrimination in the workplace, which everyone is against, right, and the sort of DEI components in these companies, in the federal government, that essentially has become bastardized over the years into just woke in the workplace. And that's what the American public is sick of. That's what 20, 30 companies over the last year have gotten sick of. They've spent countless dollars and time recruiting DEI workforces, and many of these companies decided it's simply not valuable to them anymore. Look.
I mean, you say that, but the reality is that there are studies that find that companies that are more diverse actually do better. And the pressure is coming from the outside, people like Robbie Starbuck, who are literally going into boards and pressuring them. It would be one thing if companies were pulling back on their own, but they're actually pulling back because of political pressure.
Diversity is great, but there shouldn't be cancel culture at work because you have people who disagree with you.
I get it, but
there shouldn't be
just to your
forced
point,
employment.
you know, it's not, again, the companies want to make money. They have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. Again, I don't think they would be doing this if they didn't think it was necessary for their businesses.
Abby, this conversation.
Thank you, Abby. That's the pushback. If it wasn't profitable, companies wouldn't be doing this. Cut the crap out that companies have this great moral entity. It's because it's beneficial to their company that they're doing it. And the companies that are rolling back are trying to cozy up to Trump for God knows what reason. Certain bills to be passed, who knows?
And actually highlights what I think is so dangerous, right? What you're suggesting is that merit and minority applicants are mutually exclusive. That's what you're suggesting. You're saying that if I'm a minority candidate, that means I am actually unqualified, right?
No, I don't think he is at all. I don't think he is at all. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you say that.
Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts. Why is it that the majority of people who run Fortune 500 companies are white men?
There you go. I mean, it just.
Why is that?
Why is it?
I mean,
Why do we only have 2 black women that are running Fortune 500 companies? Are you telling me?
We got to work harder.
No.
Why does Donald
That's
Trump
not the
only
right
appoint
answer.
one black person to his cabinet?
You can't tell me.
Are you effing kidding me? You have to work harder. Again, the most educated group, black women. You have to work harder. Wow. This is what I mean. This kind of stuff permeates. It becomes their identity and what they really believe of other people. That just because their skin color. He's essentially saying black people are lazy. Disgusting racial trope that he probably doesn't even think he's racist. In his head, he says, yeah, this is logical, right? Black people aren't as smart as white people, right? This is how they foundationally believe. That's why it's dangerous.
That we have to work
you're
harder.
saying that black, brown people, women are not working hard enough, and that's why they're not in.
Absolutely not. I'm saying that.
You just said
that. I'm an American.
Why is it
I'm
that
proud of my
we only have
heritage.
2 black women that are running Fortune 500 companies? Answer that question for me.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the hiring process was in that company. I can tell you that, but all I'm telling you is that there's a lot of black women who serve in the legislature. I mean, we had a black woman vice president. I mean, she earned it. She worked hard.
She did.
So it wasn't given it to her.
Well, you sat at this table many times when basically the Republican Party, Donald Trump, his vice president, called her a DEI hire.
Yes.
Said that she
I
was
didn't
not.
call her a DEI hire.
I'm not talking about you. I said the people running for office against her called her a DEI hire. To your point, everything is being blamed on DEI. California fires, DEI. Trump's shooting, the rally at the Trump shooting, DEI, even though the head of his detail is a white man. Right-wing commentators talking about plane safety, saying planes are going to crash because of DEI.
But to that point, you had a video of a.
Yep, Charlie Kirk said if he goes on a plane and he sees a black pilot, he's afraid now because he's not sure if they're competent enough to be on piloting the plane because of DEI. Adam Carolla said if he saw a black person in Harvard, it makes him now think twice if they really belong here because of this DEI stuff. This is why it's dangerous. People are going to be passed, black people, brown people are going to be passed up even further on opportunities. And then they're going to wonder, oh my God, why is this community so poor? Why is this community so dangerous? When you take out the economic opportunities, what do you think happens? People have to survive. People are going to commit crimes. No money, crime.
firefighter in Los Angeles, right, talking about the diversity in recruitment and saying that a person who gets themselves trapped in a fire is their own fault. You have to see how ridiculous the American public views that.
That happened. But Joe, did they cause the wildfire?
No one caused the wildfire.
Did
There's a
that
question of whether the person is competent to lead the department.
or even that ideology prevent the Los Angeles Fire Department from putting out a wildfire, 5 wildfires?
But it's
in the city
saying
of Los
that
Angeles?
particular firefighter is saying that she, I don't want
does
to
that
misgender
have
her and get more trouble,
anything-
but she is unable to lift someone out of a fire, and it's the person's fault.
What does that have anything to do with the wildfires and the ability to stop
I think a
them?
person's ability to carry someone out of a fire is a pretty
Okay, I'm
good
talking about
prerequisite
the
to be a firefighter.
wildfires
That are-
and the ability to stop them. What
No,
does that have to do with
think
it?
I don't think DEI was responsible for setting a fire. That's not what they were saying.
Clearly was not.
But
And
that's
it
what
clearly
people
was not
say.
responsible for
But also,
being able to put out the fire as well.
Also,
See how they twist their words, and when you confront them and put it so directly to them, they either get completely cornered and stay there silently like the other guy did, or this guy just goes around in circles saying nonsense, not being coherent. And this is the Abby Phillips we need. You could tell that comment bothered her, where he said that women that essentially saying that black people weren't working hard enough. You got to work harder. Really? You could tell that after he said that, the switch flipped with her.
I hear you, and I'm glad you don't think discrimination should happen. But our sitting president actually does, because he discriminated against black people. He did not want them to be able to rent from him, and he is yet to repent for it and say it is wrong. It is something that is woven into our country, and I understand that folks feel like DEI has gone too far, but disparities exist for a reason, and DEI was a tactic to ensure that people had equal opportunity. Now, I think the numbers will speak for themselves. I think, and I also, again, this goes back to the immigration thing. This whole like snitch on people that Donald Trump, they better be careful, because Donald Trump sits next to people that might get snitched on themselves.
Snitches
So
get stitches. Be careful.
I didn't want to say it. I was waiting for you. You're from New York.
Let's talk about equal opportunity, right? Because this is what this is all about. It's about opening up the doors and removing the barriers that have existed for decades, right? There is a reason why black people in this country only have 15% of the wealth as white people. So what are you telling us? Are you telling us that we are unqualified, unsmart, that we're not actually operating based on merit? Why is it that we have a
There was
culture?
affirmative
I think you
action
can
for white men
compete
for
against
literally
any white person.
hundreds
There's
of
no-
years in this country. For hundreds of years, there was affirmative action for white men. And to answer your question, because my friend Abel would not, it is not because they're not working hard enough. It's because for centuries, they were locked out of education. For centuries, they were locked out of economic mobility. They couldn't even build wealth. They were set free in this country after being enslaved for hundreds of years with nothing. And then they were subject to another 100 years of Jim Crow. So look,
And
there are a
can
lot
I
of
just say-
reasons for it, but it's not because
Can
they're
I
not
just say
working hard enough.
it perpetuates generation to generation. I would just encourage people who disagree with DEI to take time to sit down and have a conversation with a person of color who feels like DEI has helped them or has been discriminated against. Because again, when you put a face behind an actual issue, it makes you understand an issue better.
All right, Alfonso David, thank you very much for.
And guys, one more thing, we're gonna end it here. When black people, they were segregated, they were left out of all these things that Abby Phillip mentioned there. They built their own. They built their own jobs, their own schools. And you know what white nationalists in this country did? Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. They burned 35 blocks down. Multiple people dead, black people dead. One of the most wealthiest neighborhoods, communities in the country. And I would love to ask these guys, were black people lazy when they were building this country and you used them as slave labor? Were they lazy when you had them fight in your world wars? I think disgusting. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe if you're not. And I'll catch you in the next one.